ever find yourself, just like totally engrossed in a book and you kind of wish you could like jump into that world and actually experience it firsthand?
Oh, totally. Or like when you're playing a game and you catch yourself thinking, man, this would make an epic movie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today. The captivating worlds of LitRPG and GameLit.
It's like someone took the thrill of like leveling up in a game and somehow bottled it up in a book.
Okay, I am here for it. But for those of us who haven't ventured into these digital dungeons yet, let's start with the basics.
Sure.
This article I sent you throws around terms like LitRPG and GameLit like they're common knowledge. So what exactly are we dealing with here?
Okay, so imagine like a spectrum of stories.
Yeah.
And on this spectrum, we have like books and games kind of intertwining.
Okay.
So on one end, you have LitRPG, and it's completely immersed in like the mechanics of role-playing games. Like we're talking stats levels, skill trees, the whole shebang.
So if I'm picturing this right, it's like reading a D&D campaign where the author is like meticulously tracking every like potion and stat boost.
Precisely. And readers of this genre, they crave that meticulousness. They want to see those numbers climb. They want to see those skills unlock.
That's wild. Okay, so then what about this GameLit thing? Where does that fall on the spectrum?
So GameLit casts a wider net. It's any story where gaming elements enhance the narrative, but they don't necessarily like define the entire reading experience.
So it's less about the number crunching and more about how game-like scenarios drive the plot.
Exactly. A perfect example is Ready Player One.
Good.
The story is steeped in gaming culture, but the focus is still on the characters, their relationships, their journey.
Yep.
GameLit allows authors to explore like a vast playground of genres and themes, dystopian futures, alternate realities, even our own world, but with a little sprinkle of something extraordinary.
Okay, this is starting to make a lot of sense. But this article also points out that both genres seem to be tapping into this similar desire in readers. What is it about LitRPG and GameLit that's resonating so strongly with people right now?
I think a big one is escapism.
Okay.
Both genres offer us like a portal to worlds with heightened stakes, where like the impossible becomes possible. We get to step into the shoes of heroes, conquer challenges, explore uncharted territories. But beyond just pure escapism, there's a deeper layer at play here.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Tell me more.
Well, think about like the core appeal of games like progression, that satisfying feeling of leveling up, of watching your skills improve, of seeing like tangible results for your effort.
Right.
LitRPG replicates that experience, but on the page, it's about measurable progress in a world where your efforts have clear, quantifiable outcomes.
I can see how that would be incredibly appealing, especially in a world where like progress can often feel kind of nebulous.
Exactly. And while GameLit might not be as numbers driven, it still taps into that desire for growth and transformation. The characters in these stories are often thrown into extraordinary circumstances, forced to adapt and develop their skills to overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
It's that classic like zero to hero narrative that we're hardwired to crave.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it's not just about these like individual journeys, right? I mean, the article mentioned this like vibrant community aspect to both genres.
Oh, absolutely. These genres are practically bursting with passionate fans who take their enthusiasm far beyond the page.
Wow.
They're creating fan art, writing their own stories, debating plot points in online forums, even collaborating with authors to expand upon these worlds.
It's like they're not just reading about characters who are interacting with these game systems, they're like engaging with those systems themselves, right?
Yeah.
Strategizing, theorizing, almost like a form of collaborative storytelling.
Precisely. And that level of engagement speaks volumes about the power of these genres to capture people's imaginations and inspire them to become active participants in these ever-expanding fictional universes.
Okay, I have to admit, my curiosity is officially piqued. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about escapism.
Sure.
This article suggests that both LitRPG and GameLit might be tapping into something even deeper than just a desire to escape reality.
Yeah, it's like these stories are holding up a mirror, and it's not just about escaping. It's like they're reflecting our anxieties about technology, about control, about the future itself.
Okay.
Like in both LitRPG and GameLit, there's this underlying question of like, what happens when the lines between reality and the digital world start to blur?
Ooh. You know, now that you mention it, that totally reminds me of Jumanji.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, maybe not a perfect example of LitRPG, but those poor kids get sucked into a game, and the consequences are very real.
Exactly. And it kind of highlights how these genres play with that fear of like losing control, right? Of
Yeah.
the rules of the game bleeding into our everyday lives.
Right.
And that's a fear that's becoming increasingly relevant in like our tech-obsessed world, wouldn't you say?
Totally. I mean, we're already living with augmented reality, virtual reality. Who's to say we won't wake up one morning with a literal character sheet hovering over our heads?
Right. And that's where the what if element becomes so potent in these genres. Like,
Yeah.
imagine a world where your skills were literally quantifiable.
Yeah.
Your progress is like meticulously tracked and displayed for all to see. What would that do to society? How would we value ourselves? How would we interact with each other?
Whoa, that's a lot to process.
Right.
It'd be fascinating on one hand, but potentially terrifying on the other. Talk about pressure to perform.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly everyone's walking around with like visible stats,
Yeah.
comparing themselves, competing.
Precisely.
Wow.
It raises all sorts of questions about like free will versus determinism.
Oh, wow.
If our lives become gamified, do we still have agency? Or are we simply playing out these predetermined roles, our choices dictated by algorithms and stat bonuses?
Okay, now we're getting into some serious philosophical territory.
Right.
I love how these like seemingly simple genres about games and fantasy can lead to such profound questions.
Yeah.
It's like they're tapping into this primal human need to understand our place in the world, to find meaning and purpose.
And let's not forget about like the impact of technology.
Mm-hmm.
Both LitRPG and GameLit, they often explore the implications of advanced technology on our lives, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
We see stories about virtual reality gone wrong, artificial intelligence gaining sentience, and like the ethical dilemmas that arise when the lines between human and machine become blurred.
It's like science fiction, but with a more immediate, relatable edge. It's
Right.
not some far-off dystopian future. It's a future that feels increasingly within reach.
Exactly. And because these stories are often told through the lens of characters that we can connect with,
Yeah.
they allow us to explore these like complex and sometimes unsettling possibilities,
Yeah.
but in a way that feels safe, even cathartic.
That's a really interesting point. It's like these genres are giving us a space to process our anxieties about the future, to grapple with like the ethical and societal implications of emerging technologies, all within the framework of a thrilling story. Exactly. And it's not just about anxieties either.
Okay.
Remember that sense of progression we talked about, that desire to level up, to see tangible results for our efforts. That's a universal human longing, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all want to feel like we're moving forward, achieving goals, becoming better versions of ourselves.
And in a way, that's what LitRPG and GameLit offer readers. A sense of agency and accomplishment, even if it's within the confines of a fictional world.
Yeah.
These stories remind us that even in the face of like overwhelming odds or seemingly insurmountable challenges, progress is possible. We can learn new skills, overcome obstacles, and ultimately level up our lives.
That's such an empowering message.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that maybe these genres aren't just reflecting our anxieties about the future, they're also reflecting our hopes for it.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful way to put it.
It's fascinating to me how much these stories resonate with our own like desire for growth and meaning, you know? It's like we're all playing the game of life, even if we don't have like the stat sheet to prove it.
And who knows, maybe someday we will. But really though, the fact that we're even like having this conversation kind of speaks to the power of these genres, right?
Certainly.
They're not just entertainment. They're sparking like important conversations, about technology, society, and what it means to be human in like an increasingly digital age.
Totally. And it seems like these conversations are only just beginning. This article mentioned how LitRPG and GameLit are still evolving, pushing boundaries, blending with other genres.
Oh, yeah.
What do you see as the future of these like storytelling forms?
Oh, man. The possibilities are like incredibly exciting. As technology advances, we can expect to see even more immersive and like interactive storytelling experiences. Like imagine reading a LitRPG novel, but your choices actually influence the protagonist's stats
Wow.
or unlock different storylines.
That would be incredible. Almost like stepping inside of a video game, but with the depth and nuance of like a well-crafted novel.
Yeah, exactly. We might also see more hybrid works that blend LitRPG and GameLit elements seamlessly and create these truly unique reading experiences. And as these genres continue to gain popularity, I think we can expect to see even more diverse voices and perspectives emerging, exploring like a wider range of themes and settings.
It's like a whole new frontier of storytelling is opening up right before our eyes.
Precisely. And that's what makes this such an exciting time to be a fan of these genres.
Yeah.
We're witnessing like the birth of something new, something innovative, something that has the potential to like change the way we think about books, games, and the very nature of storytelling itself.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I've leveled up my understanding of these genres tenfold. So as we wrap up our deep dive, is there one final provocative thought you'd leave our listeners with? Something to ponder as they venture into the worlds of LitRPG and GameLit.
Here's something to think about. As these genres continue to like blur the lines between reality and fantasy, they invite us to question our own definitions of like progress, purpose, even reality itself. Perhaps the real game lies in discovering how these stories can help us better understand and navigate the complexities of our own lives.
Ooh, that's a powerful thought. It's like these stories are not just about escaping reality, but about rediscovering it, finding new ways to engage with the world around us.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe in exploring these fictional worlds, we might even discover something new about ourselves along the way.
You've given us a lot to think about. Okay, listeners, you heard it here. Time to grab your metaphorical dice and choose your adventure. Will you delve into the meticulously crafted mechanics of LitRPG or explore the boundless realms of GameLit? No matter your choice, one thing's for sure, a world of immersive storytelling awaits.